we're going to spend a little time there. When we arrived, we spent at this particular temple and guest room, because it's a spiritual trip. We're going to talk about staying in spiritual places, and we'll talk about the spiritual side of things. This is the temple. This is the Glory of India temple. It's very close. This is the presiding attendants, the owners, Radha and Krishna deities of this particular temple. It's very close to the Baha'i Lotus temple. In fact, they can see each other from window to window. And this is the capital of the Baha'is culture. A very interesting temple, built like a lotus flower. Also, the largest mosque in India is in Delhi. It's called the Jama Masjid Mosque. There people go and they pray on a regular basis. Very, very nice building. Very old also. Very large. Close by is Red Fort. A nice, interesting place, a lot of history behind it. Delhi originally was known, according to the great epic of the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is a great epic of India, and it was formerly known as Hastinapur, or the place of the elephants. It was the capital, and it was said that that was the capital, 5,000 years and prior, capital of the entire world. This is the old part of Delhi, which was considered to be the area of Hastinapur. So from Delhi, we're going to go to Vrindavan. Vrindavan is the land of Krishna. And this is a building, this is a temple. This is the temple of Radha Madana Mohan. It's actually the first building in Vrindavan, the first temple to go up. Then after that one, there were 6 others that came up. They were the primary temples. And now within Vrindavan, there's over 5,000 temples in this small, I guess you could say town. It's more than a village. It's now a town and rapidly growing. A lot of the credit goes to these saintly persons. They're known as the 6 Goswamis. They spent time there. They're the ones that, with their potency, had these temples built. And they excavated and uncovered all the different places of Krishna's pastimes. When Krishna came to this planet 5,000 years ago, they were on the planet 500 years ago. And they excavated and discovered and rediscovered all the places of Krishna's pastimes through their transcendental consciousness, their Krishna consciousness, removing the cloud of material covering to where they can actually visualize and see the pastimes of Krishna taking place there at present. This is another view of that same original temple. This is Sanatana Goswami. That temple was built for his little Krishna deity called Madana Mohan. A very interesting story behind that, but we'll save that for another time. From the temple complex, you look down and you see all these little things with the domed-like buildings. These were actually bathing ghats, or places you'll see the steps. Where that road is, the road used to be the river Jamuna. The river Jamuna used to go right up to those bathing ghats. People could go and take what they call a holy dip. They would go and bathe in the Jamuna River. It was considered sacred. This is a newer building. This is the Bhaktivedanta ISKCON temple in Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram temple. The presiding deity is Krishna Balaram. And this is not the deity of the temple. This is Oprah. But the reason we have Oprah in this picture is because she was actually visited, just a couple of years ago, she visited India, and she also visited many of the temples, including the Krishna Balaram temple. So I thought it would be nice just to show that, even great personalities in the sense of the mundane sense, famous people are taking a real interest in spiritual life related to the Vedic culture, which still has its origins in India. So now we've come down to Jamuna a little bit. This is a place called Sri Ramghat, and this is also a good place to take a bath. Many pastimes considered sacred because of certain pastimes that have taken place with Krishna and other incarnations. It's said that the holy place, Mathura, is superior to Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is another term for the spiritual world. Even if a person lives there for a day, he will develop devotion to Lord Hari. Lord Hari is another name for God. God has many names. Different faiths have different names. And Hari is just the name of God. Hare, Krishna, Ram, Jehovah, Allah. Different faiths have different names, one God. And this was originally established by Shatrughna, the younger brother of Lord Ram, and we know about them from the great epic known as the Ramayana. Anybody's a little familiar with Indian culture who knows that these two epics, they're kind of like the equivalent to the Greek classics like the Iliad and the Homer's Iliad. What's the other one? Odyssey, thank you. This is where Krishna appeared. This is a painting. It's not a photograph I took, it's a painting. Krishna appeared. You walk along the streets, and I thought this is a very interesting picture. Here we have obviously a family of potters, and their livelihood are making pots, clay pots. And they were very curious when we came up with our camera. You can see the two brothers, the children, the grandmother in the back there, and then right in the way back looks like the mother, all coming out a little bit curious. This probably has been a tradition in their family for thousands of years. Thousands of years, and this is a very sustainable type of way, because you take the clay from the earth, you use it, and you don't actually keep it and reuse it, but you just throw it away, and then you purchase some more. It's like the first disposable, recyclable system. Like the colors, I like just the ambience of this particular street as I walk by in Mathura. Cows are everywhere. I liked it also because of the cleanliness. The street is very clean. Now we'll get back in the boat, we'll come back to Vrindavan. We'll go to a place called Radhakund. A kund means lake or pond. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you'll hear a little bit more about him as we go through. The great personality, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He rediscovers Radhakund and Shamakund. These are two lakes that Krishna and Krishna's consort, Radharani, used to frolic and bathe in. This is as it somewhat looks today. Very tranquil spot. There's a demarcation between the two lakes. On the far side is Radhakund, on the far side is Shamakund. Now this is from an ancient scripture called the Skanda Purana. It says the holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, because Krishna appeared there. But better than Mathura is the land of forest of Vrindavan, because Krishna had pastimes there. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Krishna. And the best place of all is a super excellent Sri Radhakund, which is considered to be the most spiritually potent place in the universe. Just like the Christians, they have their most spiritual place is Bethlehem, and the Muslims, theirs is Mecca. In Vaishnavism or Hinduism, Krishna consciousness, Radhakund is considered to be the most auspicious. Although there are many, many spiritual places all over India. This is spiritual India, this is a trip to spiritual India. We'll hear about more of them also. Again, some more pictures. The way Radhakund looks now is primarily due to this, one of the six Goswamis, Raghunath Das Goswami, because he was the first one to arrange for the excavation so that pilgrims could come rather than having to walk through muddy paddy fields with the steps going down and so on. And every day, thousands and thousands. And Radhakund is just a little village, quite far away. This is a typical village scene in Radhakund. Here's the hooligans, the gang of, the gangsters of Radhakund. And you'll notice in the background outside the house, they have a couple of cows parked there. Usually in the West we have a couple of cars, but in simple village life in India, they basically have animals, and particularly the cow. Because what we do in the West is we jump in our car, we drive up to a superstore and buy our milk, and we drive back and we work all week so we can afford to buy a car and put gasoline in it, and we have to dig holes to get the gasoline, and on and on and on and on. Where here, this is a sustainable culture that's been like this for a millennium. You come outside, you just turn on the milk machine, give it a few cranks, and you got your milk. And then you give it a little grass, and then they drop some dung, and you take the dung and you use that as cooking fuel. and you boil the milk and you have nice hot milk. You can turn it into curd, butter, yogurt, cheese, different things. Very meditative places. This is the Jamuna River. It's considered, the Jamuna River is not different than the Ganges. They kind of run parallel. It's a tributary. And Krishna frolicked in the Jamuna, so it's a very sacred place. Just as the Ganges is said to come from the toe of Krishna and flow down from the Himalayas at Gangotri, it flows through Vrindavan, where it is known as the Jamuna. You walk along the banks of the river, you come across, some place where you can get boats. You get on the boat, you go on the river, and this is the scene you might see. This is known as Keshi Ghat. It's also a developed place. You see the steps. The steps always go into the sacred rivers and into the sacred lakes, and they don't end at the water bank, but they keep going because sometimes the water rises, sometimes the water sets. So according to the level, you can just walk in and walk out. Of course, you have to be a little careful because sometimes there's some algae that forms on the steps, and you might, take more of a holy dip than you were actually anticipating, which has happened a few times. Krishna's, had many pastimes, as I was mentioning, and here he's having a pastime with a wild horse, but wild horses couldn't keep Krishna down. Here's another picture of the sun setting at Keshi Ghat. In the evening, everywhere you go along the rivers and the sacred lakes and the riverbanks, they offer some what is called puja, or some worship, some respect. Because just from a mundane point of view, it's the rivers, it's the streams, it's the rivulets that actually sustain the whole planet. Without the rivers and the lakes and the streams, the planet wouldn't be living. But in these places, they're considered particularly special because Krishna has had some pastimes, have played in the waters, swam in the waters, and even saintly persons go there and ordinary persons go there. They take a bath, and it's interesting when you bathe in these places. We're all familiar with taking a bath, especially in the West, because from a mundane point of view, the Western standard of cleanliness is very high. Maybe even a little too high in the sense everything is pasteurized and sanitized and pasteurized. But when you bathe in a place like this, not only do you feel your body somewhat clean, but you actually feel inside a certain cleanliness that you don't experience under normal conditions with regular soap and water. Again, people are offering these little cups of flames. They offer it, and then it floats down the river. On our last day there, one of our friends, a little shopkeeper in Vrindavan, he said, "Have you been on the boat on the Jamuna this trip?" And we didn't. So he said, "No problem." He picked up a phone and he graciously arranged for us to take a boat. And this is the boat that he arranged for us. And when we got on the boat, we were thinking, so many little pots of little candles. We were thinking, he's going to go deliver them to somebody, because that's where they get them. They make them and it's like, he's going to deliver them all along our boat ride. But interesting enough, he had the crew light all the little lamps, and one by one they handed them to us. We were sitting in the bow and we were, offering it with respect and placing it in the water. And at the end of the trip, when the boat pulled into dock, I turned around and I saw this. All those lights were just basically from us, that one boatload. And it said if you offer some worship like that, you get a lot of spiritual benefit. So I thought that was kind of very nice of our friend. Again, a different kund, pond, lake. Kund means small lake or big pond, like that, sacred places. Local people, life is very simple. It's a live and let live place. The cows, the hogs, the monkeys, the people, they all live in harmony, except the monkeys are sometimes engaged in a little too much monkey business. You gotta watch out for your glasses. If you're wearing glasses and a monkey, they'll grab your glasses. And if you're not quick enough to go and get some fruit from a fruit vendor and barter with him to get your glasses back, he'll just break them. And sometimes if he feels, especially, his nature might be, some just like people, some people are very kind and nice, and some people are very mean and cruel. Well, there's a person in all species of life, and sometimes a monkey, can be more, pleasant and just give it back to him and he's happy to get his orange. Sometimes you give him the orange or the apple or the banana especially. But he won't be, he'll be mean and he'll break your glasses and throw them away anyway. So it's kind of like you're gambling. So if you ever go into these villages where there's lots of monkeys, make sure you're not wearing your glasses. Or they're tight, or your camera, or anything for that matter. I particularly like the way the light was coming off these cows' ear here. You notice also the cows and the bulls, they're very docile. Not like in the West, they're a different breed, they're very passive. This is another place, this is right on the edge of what is called Govardhan. As we read from the quote previously, Krishna lifted Govardhan. This is the hill that is said to be lifted by Krishna because there was a rainstorm, a huge rainstorm, a devastating rainstorm, kind of like what is described in the Bible, 40 days and 40 nights. So this was what took place here. People were very anxious, so they went and ran to Krishna for protection. And so Krishna said, no problem, and he just lifted up this whole mountain. 24 kilometers is the circumference. And, it seems, some people accept it, it's just mythology. Other people actually accept it as fact. And you'll see many pilgrims, thousands of pilgrims, they go to this Govardhan and they circumambulate it out of respect. They walk barefoot, or in the case of this particular saintly sadhu, devotional person, he does it what is known as Dandavat Parikram. Parikram means to walk around, and Dandavat means like a rod. So what he's doing is you see this once in a while, he lies flat to offer respects. And then where his hands finish touching, he steps there and he lies flat again. And then he touches there and he lies flat and he goes around 24 kilometers like that. And in this particular case, you'll notice he's got a pile of stones, and he's got so many stones, and he has a pile, he starts with the pile, he lies down, takes the stone, and he chants a mantra, puts the stone in front, takes another one, puts it in front, chants a mantra, and then he goes to the next one and does the same thing. The different variations of the same austerity. You perform spiritual austerity, you get spiritual benefit. You perform material austerity, you get material benefit. You want to learn to play the piano, you undergo the austerity of the time of learning to play. So spiritually speaking, there are different things that are recommended, austerity. Some of them today are not very practical or even necessary, but there are other ones today that are very helpful. This is known as Kusum Sarovar. This is a place, this is a palace. This was a king's, basically it was his, cottage. He would, leave the more congested area and spend his time at the cottage at the lake. There's another view. Inside, that big dome is said to be one solid rock, and inside, this is the different paintings. And this, I'm not exactly sure what it's depicting, but usually they depict some history of the king's family or so on and so forth. Evening shot, typical village scene in the evening. This is Vrindavan. This is a very dry climate. We were caught in a rickshaw traffic jam one time, and right beside us was this fruit walla. I thought, that was a very nice colorful fruit. Took a photograph and then jumped off the rickshaw, grabbed a couple of pieces of fruit, jumped back on, watched out for the monkeys, got back on, and the traffic jam was free. So from there we get on a bus, and this is the kind of thing that you might experience, you might run into. The trucks passing, narrow lane, not paved. This is in the rural part of India. Now you go to Delhi, you go to Mumbai especially, it's like the West. They're developing their highways, they're developing their transit systems. But still in rural India, it's very much like this, and they have their lorries or their trucks. And these drivers are so expert, with inches to spare, they can pass each other. Best drivers in the world as far as I'm concerned, especially if you see them driving in the city, it's hair-raising. That's nice, but now we're in a bus. Now that truck's got to get by us, and we got to get by them. And a bus is bigger than the truck. Typical village. Center of the village is the pump or the well. This is where all the activity takes place. Water for the home, water for cleaning. Sometimes you see the the men, not the ladies, but the men will sometimes shower, bathe underneath the pump, and all the communication for the village takes place at the pump. They meet there and they communicate. These houses that look like houses are not actually houses, but they're actually cow dung mixed with straw, and they use this for cooking. Now, it's interesting to note, in the ancient Vedic culture, maybe you've heard of the Ayurveda, the ancient, it's the natural herbal remedies. It's pointed out that, you know, the stool of anybody and anything is contaminated, very impure. One should immediately bathe completely if one passes stool or urine. But, interesting enough, only the cow and the bull, neither the goats, neither the bullocks, but only the cow and the bull, their stool and their urine is actually pure. In fact, they even make medicines. They're antiseptic. Modern experimentation has been done, and they've actually determined that yes, it's antiseptic. And what they do is they actually take the cow dung. This is why the cow is considered so important in the bull. They take the cow dung and they place it on the walls as what do you call it when you put it on the wall?
Wallpaper? Like a wallpaper?
No, not a wallpaper, but plaster. Sort of like a plaster, and they put it on the floor, and flies won't land on it. It's very, very clean. I know the idea to a Westerner is like, I remember on one walk, I was in the middle of nowhere all by myself a few years back, and I was wearing these, I was actually cheating, I was wearing these very light sandals, and I sliced my toe, and all this blood was coming out. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and all of the sand is getting in my, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm nowhere around, in the middle of nowhere. You know, I'm going to get gangrene. I'm going to end up cutting my toe off, and it's all these horrible things, you know. And then all of a sudden I saw this cow walking straight, you know, it's almost like it was a perfect arrangement, just about where that pillar is, and dropped what we call a cow pie. And I thought, well, I'm going to get gangrene one way or the other. So I stuck my toe in it. I kid you not, the next day it was completely healed. And it was like no problem. So there's some truth to that. I've had personal experience. It is an antiseptic. Sadhus, saints, devotees, devotional people. Actually, all village life are very devotional. And it doesn't, you never know who or what you're going to run into. There are a lot of bullocks. They just like we wash our car, they wash their vehicles in the form of the cow. The cow and the bull is considered to be like mother and father, because the mother gives us milk and the father goes into the field and brings home the food. So this is, like I said, this is a culture that's sustainable and has been sustainable for eons. And if you look back, the car has only been in existence for maybe 120 years, 100 years since it's been popular. So this kind of works. The only thing is that we're so addicted to our particular lifestyle. Cows are very much respected and taken care of. Krishna himself was actually a cowherd boy in his pastimes. He lived a rural life. That was one of his pastimes. Another was he lived as royal king in Dwarka. And you see, this is how friendly and how loving and lovable a calf is. Now the next picture, I must warn you, you may want to close your eyes, it's very graphic, but I'm trying to make a statement. Excuse me for making a statement. We're going into a little bit of, maybe a little bit out of context here, but I do want to make the statement. So this is how they're treated by people who have affection for animals, especially for the little calves, and this is how they're treated in the West. They're just, put into a horrible living condition, skinned, and then turned into food. And the mother, the cow, after we exploit her and take all her milk, we just slit her throat and eat her. This is very barbaric. But there is a law of karma, and it's stated that what goes around comes around, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. And here's an example. If you become an aggressor in one life, you become the victim in another. Back on the road again, you see the fine dust. People are they live very, not very opulently, very simply, but they're very happy. This is Varshana. This is the place where Radharani, Krishna's consort, appeared. Radha and Krishna. This is a view of the village. This is also called Varshana. And you'll notice a lot of the cities, towns, and the villages especially, they're all named after Krishna, after some spiritual thing. For instance, we're going to go to Calcutta later. And the name Calcutta, it came when the British were there. There was a village called Kalighat. Kalighat was by the river. Ghat means a bathing place, and Kali is the name of Durga, or a demigoddess. And the place was called Kalighat. And then the British developed it. It became the capital, their capital of India. Initially, they considered it the crown jewel of the British Empire, and they didn't call it Kalighat, but they called it Calcutta, which was named after. And the same with Bombay. Bombay was initially called Bhumika, named after another demigod. So in this way, all the towns, villages are named after Krishna, God, because of pastimes and different things that took place there. Here's a little cafe along the street in the village of Varshana. Typical life, village life. You've probably seen. I mean, you can go to the internet and see pictures that are better, and videos and so on and so forth. But this is our humble attempt to give you some idea of the places we've been and the sites that we've seen. There's a girl in her traveling conveyance. Looks like grandfather's taking care of the kids. I love when there's some commotion and they come to the door and have a look. You never know what you're going to see behind the door. This is my answer to the National Geographic, that famous painting. The only thing is she has brown eyes, not blue, and she has her mother in the background making sure that no hanky-panky's going on. The different style of dress. You notice the climate here is very dry. It's almost desert-like. It's very close to the border of the Rajasthan province, which is mostly desert. They take use of animals to do all the labor. And there are very many peaceful, this is again along the bank of the Ganges, the Jamuna rather, places to meditate. That particular place, this is where, after Krishna appeared, he was taken from Mathura across the river. There's a whole pastime behind that. And that was the place where they came from. And there's always devotees everywhere that are, interested. This is another place, another bathing ghat, but made this special place was Krishna was with his friends, and he ate some dirt. And his friends accused him of eating dirt. And they went running to his mother and said, Krishna ate some dirt, Mother Yashoda. You know how kids can be tattletales? We grew up never to be a tattletale, but sometimes kids can be tattletales. And so Mother Yashoda came out and said, Krishna, did you eat some dirt? And he said, no, Mother, I didn't eat some dirt. Let me see, open up your mouth. And Krishna opened his mouth, and what did his mother see inside his mouth? The whole cosmic manifestation, everything. And then she kind of, wait a minute, she kind of read, no, this is my son. This is just my son. And then she again bestowed her affection on Krishna. So now we're going to go from Vrindavan, we're going to go to Jaipur. Jaipur is known as the Pink City. But before we go completely to Jaipur, we're going to go back to Vrindavan. This is the presiding resident of Jaipur. This is what Jaipur was built for. This is a deity known as Govinda, which is another name of Krishna. Krishna originally, this particular deity, was in this temple in Vrindavan. This is the Govinda temple that was built specifically for that deity. And this temple used to be more than twice as tall as it is now. And there was a Muslim ruler by the name of Aurangzeb, maybe if you know a little bit of the history. He was very envious, and he would go around breaking temples if they were tall, and also breaking the deities. So they managed to get wind that he was coming, so they took the deity. One king, by the king Jai Singh II, he took the deity to a place called Amber. This is inside the Radha Govinda temple as it looks pretty much today. I just like the colors and the antiquity of it and such, and the textures, so I took some photographs. Anyway, he took the deity to this fort. He was very unconquerable. He was you know, Singh. Singh means lion. It's a title that's given to the Kshatriyas, or the warrior class, which they get if they go into the jungle barehanded and kill a lion. They would get the name Singh. You know, a lot of Punjabis, Sikhs